Welcome everyone to the 8th Cook Like a Rebel. I am pleased to introduce Mark Sandoval. He's going to show you how to make some delicious pasta Alfredo with chicken and some sauteed vegetables, as well as a Caesar salad. But just first, a little bit about Mark. Mark was drawn to cooking at an early age. It's an interest that he credits to his father. His father was a restaurant cook, and they would prepare dinners together for his family 3 to 4 times a week. Mark really loved the reaction that his culinary creations received. Then he spent his adolescent years cooking for friends and family as often as he could. Mark attended the University of Colorado and graduated with a degree in studio fine art with an emphasis on photography and sculpture, which is a focus that he says is really actually very important in cooking. And upon his graduation in 1995, he moved to San Francisco to pursue his love for all things culinary, and he enrolled in the California Culinary Academy. And then after working for 20 years under some of the best chefs in the city and the world, Mark realized that he had achieved all of his culinary goals. So back in 2016, when UNLV presented him with the opportunity to work with the UNLV students as executive chef, he couldn't have been more excited, and he looks forward to many, many more years. So I will turn it over to Mark, and he's going to show you the way of the kitchen.
Thank you for the introduction, Kelly. And welcome, everyone. We are in the hospitality kitchen up on the 4th floor. This is the Marriott Executive Kitchen. And unfortunately, we are not hosting classes in here currently, but it is so awesome to have you here with us today to prepare this meal. Today, we are going to make a Caesar salad. I'm going to teach you how to make the dressing from scratch and the fresh croutons, and then we're also going to do our fresh penne pasta with grilled or roasted chicken, sauteed vegetables, and an Alfredo sauce. So we've kind of got a lot going on. If at any point you feel like you're falling behind or you want me to slow down a little bit, you can let Candace know and she will let me know. But I'm also going to move along so that we can put everything together in a timely fashion as well. This is a meal that ordinarily I could probably put together in about 15 to 20 minutes. So that's kind of the goal, is to also show you that things that are made from scratch that are really good can be prepared a little bit in advance and then come together as a great meal. The first thing that we want to make sure, we're going to come over here to the range top. If you did not par cook your pasta, you want to make sure that you have a pot of simmering or boiling water at this point. So I do have that pot of water ready. I'm going to crank that up a little bit. My pasta was cooked for 8 minutes, strained, cooled on a sheet pan, so it air dried or air cooled, and then I tossed it with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil. So the pasta is all separate. You can store it like this in the refrigerator. You never want to store pasta in any sort of liquid because pasta is starch and it will continually absorb that starch. So the best way to store the pasta is dry with just a little bit of olive oil, toss to coat it all of it. That way it won't stick. So my pasta is here. It is par cooked, 8 minutes. Most all pastas, with the exception of really thin pastas like angel hair, will cook in 10 minutes to a perfect al dente. Al dente in Italian means with tooth, so it has a little bit of bite, and that's how we really want to cook our pasta. The benefit to cooking pasta al dente is that you also have fewer calories when you eat the pasta. It takes your body a little bit longer to break that pasta down when it's slightly undercooked, and to convert those carbohydrates to sugars and store them as fats, versus a pasta that's overcooked. Your body is able to process it, convert those carbohydrates to sugars, and store them as fats much more quickly, excuse me. So we really want to make sure that al dente, plus I'd like to chew. Pasta should have a nice chew to it. So we've got our water ready. We've got our pasta part cooked. If you have not part cooked your pasta, now would be a good time to put that pasta in. Set a timer for 8 to 10 minutes, and that'll be perfect. Also here, I have my heavy cream. This is 3 cups of heavy cream. I have it on a very low temperature. It's reducing. I want to reduce that by about half. This is where you want to be very cautious, because if you cook or heat this heavy cream too rapidly, excuse me, it will boil over the pot. So that's why I have a rather small amount in a rather large volume pot, so that it will not boil over, but I'll have another eye on this the whole time. We're going to head back over here, and now we're going to do, we're going to put our croutons in the oven. This was on the prep list that you could do this in advance. I'm going to do this so that I can demonstrate this for you. And then we're going to start putting together our Caesar dressing. So I have my French baguette, the sourdough. I have it cut in nice cubes. I have taken the crust off of it. I think about a 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, or 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch is good. One thing that I wanted to kind of show everyone was, in the recipes I said that we're going to use blended oil, we're going to use extra virgin olive oil, but I kind of want to show you a little bit of the difference. So as you can see, this is a pure canola olive oil, or canola oil. It is rather light in color. The advantage to using canola oil while cooking is that it has a very high smoke point, meaning that the oil is not going to burn and taste off. Excuse me. The next one, this is our blend oil. So this is 75% canola and 25% extra virgin. So when I hold those two up, you can see that the one that's blended has quite a bit more of a yellow hue to it. That is that extra virgin. So this is the extra virgin olive oil, and this is the canola. You can see a huge difference. So when I put these oils together, I can always visually notice which one is which by the color. Extra virgin olive oil has a really beautiful, great flavor to it, but it has a very low smoke point. So that's why we don't want to ever saute or cook with the extra virgin olive oil, because it will burn, and then we'll have a flavor of kerosene or burnt oil in our food, and we don't want that. That's why the blended oil, in my opinion, is your best universal all-purpose oil. Great for salad dressings. That's what we use for our Caesar today. Great for cooking because it has that advantage of the high smoke point, but it also has a little bit of that great flavor from the extra virgin olive oil. So just a little explanation of those oils. For our croutons, I'm going to drizzle them lightly with extra virgin olive oil. We also had our seasoning mix, which is a little bit of garlic, onion powder, and paprika. So I'm going to give that just a little bit of that coating. Also going to put just a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt, and we're just going to lightly toss that. That way we've coated it. Get back here. That way we've coated them on all sides. Again, we'll toss those. And then what we're going to do is we're going to lay those on the sheet pan. One little trick that I always like to do anytime we use a sheet pan, or a cookie sheet, as most people call it, is I put aluminum foil on it. When you go to do the dishes later, this is going to save you a lot of time and a lot of trouble, because all you have to do is pull that aluminum foil off. If you're a good person like me, you recycle it. If not, you throw it away. Nonetheless, you're going to save your time by not having to scrub the pan. So that's a nice thing. So we have our aluminum foil in our sheet pan, and we're going to pop this in the oven, 350 degrees. Thankfully, our camera person this evening is Chef Steph, and she's going to remind me not to burn the croutons. So thank you, Steph. I'm going to pop over here for just a second just to make sure that that pasta water temperature is great. The heavy cream is reducing nicely. So while these things are happening, now we're going to make our dressing. So here I have a rather large bowl. Anytime that we make a vinaigrette or a dressing, we always want to use a large bowl. It's easier, it's much easier to create an emulsion. An emulsion is a combination of things that normally don't get along very well. So in this case, we have acid, lemon juice, red wine vinegar, and we also have oil. I don't know if you remember when you were a little kid, like when I grew up, we had Italian dressing. My mom would put it on the carafe, you'd shake it, and it was all together. It was blended nicely. You'd all toss your salads with it. Then you'd set it on the table, and about 5 minutes later, you would see the separation. The oil on the top, the vinegar on the bottom, and all the vegetables and all that seasoning and kind of in between. Well, this is an emulsion, so we're going to actually get those two things that don't like one another necessarily to stay together. An emulsified dressing, something like a mayonnaise, is an emulsification. That's egg yolk and oil. In this case, we are going to use a little bit of egg yolk as our emulsifying ingredient, along with a myriad of other ingredients. But we want to use a large bowl, because a large bowl will provide a lot of surface in which to combine those ingredients. A couple little tricks that I like to use are, for our cutting boards, we have this rubberized mat that's dishwasher safe. We love to use these under our cutting boards just like this so that they do not move. They're always stable and stay put. If you do not have something like this, I like to get a kitchen towel. It's damp, and we'll twist it like that. We'll turn this slightly, and we'll create a well. Within that well, our bowl will nestle perfectly so that while I'm whisking and pouring the oil, I don't need 3 hands to try and hold that bowl stable. So that's our little trick there on how to do this with only 2 hands. So I'm going to grab my tray. Here is my tray with all of my wonderful ingredients. We like to refer to this as our mise en place. It's French for everything in its place. So I have all of my measured ingredients here so that I'm not running back and forth and back and forth. I go to the pantry once, I go to the refrigerator once, I bring everything together, I have them all ready to go. This way, we can really get this done all at one time. The first thing that we are going to do is to take our garlic. Now, for our garlic, we want to make a nice paste or puree. So what I'm going to do is take my hand flat and just pound that garlic just like that. I'm going to run the knife over it a couple times. And then what I'm going to do is just continue rubbing the knife over that garlic. What this is going to do is just create a nice paste, just like that. No big pieces, no lumps. That's what we're looking for. And we're going to put all of that beautiful garlic right into the bowl. Next, we have a little bit of Dijon mustard. So we're going to add our Dijon. Dijon is awesome in this dressing because not only does it add flavor, but Dijon also helps as an emulsification ingredient. Next, I have my anchovy paste. So I'm going to take that anchovy paste and I'm going to put that in there. If you have fresh anchovy fillets, you can do something very similar to what I did with the garlic. Mash it on the cutting board, run your knife over it, and then add it in there. So now we have our anchovy, our Dijon, and our garlic. Next, we're going to add a little bit of Worcestershire, a little bit of Tabasco, okay, and then we have our egg yolks. I have 2 egg yolks. I'm going to take those and I'm going to add those in. All right, so we have our egg yolk there. And I want to add just a little bit of water. That water is going to help with our emulsification. We're going to keep it very close because if our dressing gets a little bit thick later on, water is going to thin it out. In the meantime, let's take a quick peek at our croutons, see how they are doing. So quick look. They're nice, they're beautiful. They're not quite golden brown yet, so we're going to give them 1 more minute. Okay. Ooh. There we go. So we're going to give those just 1 more minute to go. In the meantime, what we have now is our egg yolk, our water, our anchovy paste, garlic, Dijon mustard, and the Tabasco and Worcestershire. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly start, because the bowl is tapered down, I'm going to slowly start to bring all of those items together and whisking. So if you notice, while I'm whisking, I'm not using my entire arm. I'm not stirring from my arm. I'm merely using my wrist. So that this way, our entire arm doesn't get tired, and we're able to continue whisking continuously, so we don't tire our arm out. So what we're going to do now is I have our blended oil. So with one hand pouring, one hand is whisking. And what I'm going to do is just keep that whisk moving in one spot, and I'm going to slowly drizzle a little bit of that oil right where the whisk is moving, just like this. And as you can see, it's a very slow stream. If you feel like the whole mix looks really oily, then you should stop and whisk a little bit more, because what's going to happen is your emulsion will break, and that's a challenging thing, we'll say. So I'm going to pop in here, pull those croutons out. All right, so we have beautiful croutons, nice golden brown. I can feel that they're nice and crisp. That's what we want. So we're going to set those down. And those are just going to sit there and cool, chill out. This, again, can be done in advance, and you could leave these at room temp. But I wanted to show you that you can do these as you're going to prepare the salad. Hopefully, if we get all of this right, they'll still be slightly warm. And when we add them to that salad, they'll have a really soft center and a nice crunchy texture on the outside. Okay, so we're going to get back to our Caesar dressing. Again, I'm whisking with one hand, and I'm going to slowly drizzle that oil right where the whisk is. To make sure that I emulsify, I want them to be smooth and together. And this is coming together nicely. I'll show you here in just a minute. And you just keep going. A lot of people, that's why we don't use our entire arm. That's why we just use the wrist, because you will tire yourself out. This is almost the same process as making a hollandaise. If you can make a good Caesar dressing, you can make a great hollandaise sauce as well. So this is coming together nicely. I have a very good emulsion. And again, it's just a very slow drizzle with one hand while I'm whisking with the other. So once I have that really good emulsion going, now I can go just a little bit faster with the pouring hand. and get a little bit more oil going in there at one time. Okay, so now what I want to show you is the emulsification, so you can tell that everything is nice and uniform, that it is all combined thoroughly. You don't have that really oily sheen. The oily sheen typically means that it is not emulsified and that it's a broken emulsion. In this case, we have everything emulsified together really perfectly. So now what we're going to do is we have our capers. I've rinsed the capers. The reason that we rinse the capers is because they are stored in a brine, which is a heavy salt solution. We rinse it to take off any excess salt, and all I'm going to do is quickly run my knife over those capers just like this. Just like that. We're going to pop these right into our dressing, like that. We're also going to give it a little bit of Parmesan cheese, just like that. I have more for later. We also have lemon juice. This is freshly squeezed lemon juice. I like mine a little bit more acidic and citrusy, so I put a little bit more, as well as just a little bit of red wine vinegar. And now what we're going to do is we're going to mix those last couple ingredients in. Just like that. Now I can tell just by the thickness of this dressing that I don't need to add any water. If your dressing is still really thick, that's the time that we would add a little bit more water to thin it out. But this is going to coat all of those leaves of the romaine lettuce really nicely. Last thing I want to do is a little fresh cracked pepper. No Caesar is complete without fresh cracked black pepper. So there we have it. We're going to mix that in, the last couple things. And now we're going to taste it. So with the Caesar salad, you typically don't need to add much salt. The reason being is you're going to add the capers, which are naturally salty. You're going to add that Parmesan cheese, naturally salty. So those are going to add that salt. What you do need to add is that black pepper. Really nice. Just a little bit more Parmesan cheese. We're good to go. This is beautiful. So the great thing about this is you can make this a day or two in advance, refrigerate it, and it'll stay for a week, and it's great. I made this in a bowl because I wanted to show you the emulsification process. However, the real trick is just to throw it in a blender, a high-speed blender, and blend it as such. Then you can pour that oil in, turn it up high, and boom, it's ready to go. But this is the old school way. This is how we would make this if I was going to serve this table side. This is the real way that the Caesar salad dressing was made. So salad dressing is ready to go. While we're right here, I'm going to show you how to cut that romaine lettuce. Here I have my romaine that has been cut, rinsed, and spun in a salad spinner, so it's nice and crisp. Again, did this yesterday, still beautiful, no rust, so it's awesome, ready to go. But I wanted to demonstrate how to cut this and make it very easy. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the tops of that romaine lettuce off. Ordinarily that'd go in the compost. That's a great place for it. Now what we have is the heart of romaine. The reason they call it the heart is because it doesn't have those huge thick outer leaves. This is just the center, the really sweet stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to cut it right down the center. Now we're going to turn it sideways, and I'm going to do about 3/4 of an inch pieces, just like that, composting the end. And now what we have is this beautiful romaine lettuce, nice and crisp, easy, ready to go. Again, this can be done a day in advance and refrigerated, so it's ready to go. All right, so we're gonna throw that in that bowl there. So our romaine lettuce ready to go, our dressing ready to go, croutons ready to go. Caesar, easy peasy. The croutons we could do the night before, the dressing the night before, then when we come home for work the next day, all we have to do, chop the romaine or even cut it the day before. Boom, Caesar salad's ready to go. The other thing that would be great with the Caesar salad is add a piece of grilled protein, like a chicken breast, like a piece of salmon, like some grilled shrimp. Great, easy, fast meal. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna move over here to the stovetop. And we're going to start to pull together our pasta and our vegetables. So here, what I have is that boiling water, and we're going to crank that up. Pasta is ready. My heavy cream, which has now been on the stove for about 20 minutes, definitely reduced by half, ready to go. I have 2 saute pans. One for the pasta, one for the vegetables. So the first thing that we're going to do to get this sauce ready is I'm going to turn this pan on medium-high heat. We're going to get a little bit of that blended oil. That's the 75% canola, 25 extra virgin. I'm going to add just a little bit of that there. Here in front of me, I have, again, the rest of my mise en place. So I have all my ingredients. I have my carrots, my cauliflower, and my broccoli for the sauteed vegetables. I have my chicken that was roasted and cubed, and then I also have the diced, or parsley leaves picked, and I'll show you how to cut those in a minute. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna take half of that garlic, save the other half for our vegetable saute. I have a little wooden spoon. This is a non-stick pan, so I always want to use a wooden utensil or a rubber spatula. You don't ever want to use metal on the non-stick because it will tear that coating, and that's never a good thing. So right now what we have is that garlic. We're going to call this scenting the oil. Scenting the oil means that you're going to lightly saute that garlic or onion. And what it's going to do is it's going to flavor the oil. It's going to give it a really nice flavor, but also very aromatic. I can smell that garlic, and that's really what we want, is we want that flavor to translate into the dish. Okay, so there we have our garlic scenting nicely. Over here, we're gonna add our pasta and the rest of that pasta right there into the water. Got some tongs here. We're just gonna slightly stir that. Now, that's gonna go, remember the pasta was par cooked 8 minutes, so that's gonna go roughly 2 minutes. My oil here is scented. Now I'm gonna add that chicken that's already cooked, so we're not worrying about cooking it, we're just reheating. So we got the chicken in there. We're just gonna lightly toss that with the garlic, just like that. Let that come together. Then we're gonna add that heavy cream that's already been reducing right over the top. Boom. And there we go. Now we're gonna turn that one off. So I can tell that this sauce is fairly close because the heavy cream is pretty thick. We're just gonna leave that going for just a second. Pasta, 30 more seconds. Then what we're gonna do is strain the pasta, add it in, let that pasta finish in the sauce. So now that that pasta is nice and hot from that pasta water, I'm going to go ahead and strain it right here. And there we go. So again, now we have our heavy cream. We're going to lightly toss that just like this. Okay, and we're going to add a little bit of our Parmesan cheese. That Parmesan's going to give it a lot of great flavor, and it's also going to start to thicken that and season it at the same time. So that's about our 1/4 cup right there. We're also going to give it just a little taste. We want to taste that sauce to make sure that we have it seasoned really well. The cheese has not quite blended in yet, so I'm going to give it just a second, but I know that I'm missing a little pepper, so I'm going to give it some of that fresh cracked black pepper. I love to use a pepper mill because that fresh crack, it's so aromatic, such great flavor that it's really perfect for this. Just 2 cents of salt. And there we go. Now, we're going to give this, again, a nice little toss, just like that. Now you can see the pasta is coated, the chicken's coated. That's beautiful. We're going to turn it off, let it go. Just let it hang out for a second. Over here, we're going to turn on our next saute pan. And here we're going to saute our vegetables. So this, we're going to do a little bit of reverse of what we did in this sauce. In this sauce, we scented the oil, then we added the remaining ingredients. In this case, we're going to saute the vegetables because they're larger cuts, bite-sized pieces, just like that. Okay, carrots. But we don't want to add the garlic first because the garlic will overcook and the vegetables will be undercooked. So we're going to do it the reverse. Our blended oil, again, high smoking point, a little bit of great flavor. So we're going to let that get nice and hot. We have the remainder of our minced garlic here, our carrots, our broccoli, and our cauliflower. Now, in the original recipe, I said that you could actually put the blanched florets in with the pasta. Still can do it. But instead, I wanted to do, for this, our broccoli, our carrots, and our cauliflower sauteed on the side, just to make sure that we get enough of that on our plate. With this particular portion, for 4 people, you're going to get about 3 ounces of chicken, about 5 ounces of the pasta, and the sauce is going to be around 2 ounces. That's why we want to balance it out with the vegetables. Make sure we have enough. So, as you can see now, the oil is nice and hot. We're just getting to a point where it's almost smoking. So we're going to add in our cauliflower, some carrots. Again, prep list night before, so it's ready to go. Some of our beautiful broccoli. We call these florets because it's nice bite-sized pieces, just like that. Spread those out, nice even layer. Then what we're going to do is we're going to grab our salt. Anytime we season, we want to season up high, so it's like snow falling, coats everything nice and even. And again, our freshly cracked pepper. Beautiful. When sauteing, we want a little bit of color. We want high heat. We want to cook quickly. We want the vegetables to have a little juice, just like our pasta, almost al dente. We don't want to move the pan too much because we definitely want a little bit of caramelization. The caramelization of the browning, the golden brown, is going to add the flavor. So we're just going to toss it just like this. The reason that I move it up high is because I don't want that flame to catch the oil. Again, that's like our oil burning. It's going to add that flavor of kerosene. We don't want that. That's why we saute up high. Now that our vegetables have gone for just about a minute, I can see that we need just a little bit more oil. Those vegetables have absorbed just a little bit. So I'm going to give it another tablespoon or so. And now what we're going to do is we're going to add that garlic. So we gave our vegetables about 1.5 minutes to start cooking. Now we're going to add that garlic. So this will give the garlic at least a full minute or so to continue cooking or to cook while the vegetables are still cooking. And I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm getting a really nice sear, and I can tell that those vegetables are cooking nicely, just like that. So that's perfect. Pasta is ready, vegetables are ready. I'm going to turn the vegetables off. We're going to head over, and we're going to dress our salad. Before we do, we're going to make one quick pit stop here, right in the middle. And the pit stop is for our Italian parsley. So on the prep list, we picked our nice parsley leaves, just like this. The reason that we picked those leaves is we don't like to add the stems because the stems tend to have a little bit of bitterness. So in this case, we want just those beautiful flat leaves. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put them together in a nice tight bunch, just like this. And then I'm going to thinly cut those. This is referred to as a chiffonade. I'm going to chiffonade that parsley just like that. Then I'm going to turn them the other way, and I'm going to go back one more time. And now we can run our knife over it 1 or 2 times. The great thing with this is that I already picked, washed, and rinsed and spun these leaves dry the night before, so now they're nice and dry. And this parsley is cut perfectly. So this is going to be a beautiful garnish for our pasta. And now we're going to dress our Caesar salad first. So I made a little bit of dressing yesterday so that I would have it ready to go. And I'm gonna put a rubber glove on. If you're at home and you don't have gloves, you can use tongs. So tongs work for this really well. But I like to use the gloves because you can really get your hands in there and mix that well. One of the other tricks that I like to use is I don't like to put the dressing in the salad. What I like to do is take that dressing and put it around the edge of the bowl. That way that dressing has a chance to run down the bowl. We're not going to overweight all of those light leaves with this dressing. It's going to start to run down. Now what I'll do is slightly toss those leaves up against the dressing on the sides, and we'll evenly coat them just like that. And we have a really nice even coating right now. But again, the best way to try it is to taste it. And I think we need just a little bit more. Beautiful. Okay. There we are. Now, very last thing that I want to do is throw in my croutons, just like that. You want your croutons in very last so that they have just a little bit of that dressing on them. You want them to have that kind of same flavor profile, but you hear it, you still want them to be nice and crispy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plate this Caesar salad, just like this. Tonight I've selected a black plate, excuse me, because I think that this is going to have a really nice contrast to that salad. Now, I happen to have a microplane, which is like a grater. It's a very fine grater, and a little hunk of Parmesan. The grated Parmesan is great. The reason that I like this is because I can get it really thin, almost like snow. So if you don't have a microplane in your pantry at home, definitely go check one out. I think they're about 12 or 15 bucks, but they're awesome. They're great for things like nutmeg, fresh nutmeg, Parmesan cheese, things that you can grate really fine. And it gives the illusion that there's a lot of Parmesan cheese, but there's really not. It's a very small amount because it's so light and delicate. So there we have our salad. Next, we're going to plate our pasta. And I'm going to turn that on just for 30 seconds more. All right, so you can see that's nice and hot, and that sauce is really combined to the chicken and the pasta. This isn't a sauce where you're going to have a lot on the plate, but it's definitely there because it's coated everything nice and even. Now we're going to give this just a little bit of that fresh parsley. And lastly, we'll grab our sauteed vegetables. Now, one of the steps that we can do is at the very, very end, throw in just a little bit of butter, fresh butter, and coat everything. You can certainly do that. It's definitely going to add a little bit more flavor. But for tonight, I'm going to try and keep it just a little healthier. And so we're going to put those beautiful, fresh sauteed vegetables right next to it. So there we have it. What a great meal. Very healthy, not so healthy, kind of healthy. So should be a really good mix, but I will definitely say this, a hearty meal. This is definitely comfort. The sauteed vegetables, if you wanted to, you could combine in the pasta and then have your salad as a first course. But either way, you've learned how to make a great Caesar dressing, your own homemade croutons, an Alfredo sauce from scratch, and sauteed vegetables. So these are skills that you can take, mix and match, and pair them with other dinners or other meals, and you're ready to go. So there we have it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to open things up. If there are any questions, please go ahead and use the chat feature, and Candace can relay those questions to us, and we can answer those for you. So hope you enjoy the meal. I can't wait to get into this, so thank you for joining us.
So I actually do have a couple of questions, Chef. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So the first question is from Anne. What do you recommend if the dressing seems too runny?
Okay, if the dressing seems a little bit too runny, you can do a couple things. You can add a little bit of mayonnaise. Mayonnaise is a stable emulsion, and it will help thicken that dressing up. The other thing that you can do is you can continue adding the blended oil to thicken it up. The only problem with adding the oil is that you're going to dilute that flavor. If you add the mayonnaise, mayonnaise typically has a pretty balanced flavor, so you're not going to really change it either way. So that's what I would recommend is if it's a little too thin, add a tablespoon of mayonnaise. It should help thicken it right up, and then you can go from there. Then you can kind of adjust as well.
And then what do you mean by cutting the carrots on a bias?
Okay, so cutting the big carrots on a bias, what we would do is, I don't have a carrot here with me, but what I will say is if we had a long carrot, kind of like this, cutting it on a bias means cutting it at an angle. In this case, if this were a carrot, I would try and cut it kind of at an angle this big. That way I would have bite-sized pieces. So if you notice, these carrots were cut on a bias, and they were actually about 1.5 to 2 inches long, but they were quite big, so I cut those in half again. That way it's by size. The reason that we cut it on the bias and not straight across is just for aesthetics. So the bias cut is going to give you a little bit of that kind of artistic expression in your side dish.
Great, thank you. Are there any more questions for Chef Mark? I think you explain everything so well that no one ever ends up having any questions.
Well, thank you all so much. I hope you enjoyed. Hope you picked up a couple new tricks for the kitchen. Definitely the Caesar dressing is something that I've been doing for 25 years, and I love a Caesar salad. Once you learn how to make that Caesar salad, especially if you make it in a blender, easiest thing you've ever done. And then you never have to make it or buy that store-bought, but you have it. It's good in the refrigerator for 7 or 8 days, so you can have it a couple times during the week, at the beginning, at the end, and it's awesome. So enjoy. Bon appetit. I hope you enjoy.
Great. Thank you so much, Chef Mark, for spending your Friday evening with us. Chef Stephanie, thank you for operating the camera again. Definitely a second skill set you can put on your resume, for sure. And once again, everyone, thank you for joining us for our 8th episode of Cook Like a Rebel. I am just going to share my screen for one more minute to let you know about some of the upcoming events that we have going on. So bear with me for one more minute. So you should be seeing my screen now. So again, thank you for cooking with us today. Some of our upcoming events to look out for. September 19th, we have our next episode of Salute Post Chairs. The theme is going to be Tiki Mai Tai with Mark Steele from the Restaurant Hospitality Institute and Amanda Kohler from Big Dogs Brewing. They are going to be making a couple tiki-themed drinks, some cocktails and some regular cocktails. So you definitely want to sign up for that. Registration is live and open at www.unlv.edu/hospitality/events. And then definitely save the date. September 26th, we have our 9th episode of Cook Like a Rebel. It's going to be with Claudia Andraki from Desert Bloom Eco Farm. And she's going to be showing us how to make some great meals with produce that she makes, that she grows at her farm. And then on October 17th, we have our other episode of Salute Post Chairs. It's going to be our Oktoberfest episode with a couple of our local breweries. So it's something a little bit different than what we've been doing, and you definitely don't want to miss out. And as usual, follow us and tag us on our social media. We'd love to see the dishes that you've cooked or the drinks that you've made so far with us. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter at UNLV Hospitality and at UNLV Hospitality Alumni. Once again, thank you for joining us on your Friday evening. Thank you for cooking with us. We appreciate having you, and we love seeing you virtually. And we look forward to seeing you at our upcoming events. Have a great weekend, everybody.